I've never done this before, but I guarantee it's gonna work. All right, let me explain. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, okay? All right, here. My name's Chris Hendon. I'm an assistant professor of chemistry at the University of Oregon. And today I've been given a coffee that I've never interacted with called Jovenes, which is a washed coffee from Guatemala. And my goal is to try and brew the best cup of coffee I can possibly brew with this particular coffee, which I've never tasted before. The roasters tell me I should be expecting almonds, sweet cream, and strawberry flavors. Today, what I'm gonna try and do is put all the science that I've been working on for 5 years into play and actually brew some coffee, sort of. This is Matt Pearson, I guess shop manager, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah, shop manager here at Tailored Coffee in Eugene, Oregon. And Matt and I have been working together for a very long time, and actually we're also just friends. Okay, 209?
Yeah, we usually boil it.
What is boiling in Fahrenheit?
212.
I don't even know. Okay, so here we have 11.5 grams of coffee ground at a relatively coarse grind setting for a shop. But I should note that this grind setting is still quite fine for your home use. So this is way finer than what most people would use in a French press, for example. See, well, that's what I like about Fahrenheit is that, I pulled it off at 209 when we were shooting for 212, but it doesn't matter because numbers don't matter in Fahrenheit. All right, now the idea here is that we're gonna pour the water on the coffee and we're gonna let it sit there for 4 minutes and not do anything to it for 4 minutes. If there's an earthquake or a train goes by or something, that'll be bad. But right now what you have is a crust forming. It's like these coffee grounds are floating, the CO2 is being released. All these, this is sort of keeping volatiles inside the cup. And vibrations on the ground can break the crust. As soon as that happens, it all falls apart. It holds 203.5 grams, as it turns out. You're also not supposed to touch it, but I don't want to cup it on the scale, so I'm gonna. Oh, No, I've just modified the procedure slightly. It's not screwed up. From your side, it looks perfect, and from my side, it looks like not as perfect. Yeah, we're good.
You've heard of Murphy's Law?
Yeah.
Okay, what is that?
Murphy's Law is where if something bad can happen or something goes wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Cole's Law?
No.
That's going to be cabbage, mayonnaise.
Oh, Cole's Law. Very good. This guy needs a microphone. We have another minute and 41 seconds. The crust has broken.
That shouldn't be happening. Not yet.
I was trying to tell you something insightful, but then I actually realized that after I'd done that one of the key things is to not touch the cupping bowl. Well, it's not
people are going to think I have underdeveloped coffee.
They will think that. The crust breaks sometimes when the coffee has been poorly roasted, but I assure you that here at Tailored Coffee in Eugene, Oregon, the reason that the crust broke today was entirely my fault. We can redo it.
You said that, I feel better.
So what he's doing here is he's pushing the remaining coffee grounds that were floating into the cup. Usually if that is a completely solid sort of surface, that experience of pushing, it makes it smell really great. But the point of all of this is that what we've really done is we've ground coffee, we poured hot water on it, and we've waited for 4 minutes. There's no like cheers in cupping. Like we're not going to touch spoon. In fact, I think it might be illegal according to the SCA if you touch someone else's spoon.
Yeah.
No.
It is.
It tastes a bit green and a bit baggy, like a burlap sack right now.
Yeah.
Because it's not fully extracted, right? At the moment, it's sort of more the front end. It's a bit thin. But actually, for the purpose of what this brewing method is used for, that's a really positive thing. Because what you're really looking for are defects in coffee when you're brewing it this way. And so we're not tasting any of the front end defects, which means this coffee, it's a good quality coffee. It's now up to us to figure out how to brew it. Okay, this syringe is an Aeropress. It's pretty popular in states that do outdoor activities because, oh my goodness, because it compacts down to this size, so you can take it with you camping and stuff. And what's pretty neat about it is that you're able to brew really small cups if you use a lot of coffee and a little bit of water, or you can brew a full cup of coffee by using more water. You get the idea. I'm weighing out 15 grams because every coffee has a different density. So if you did it volumetrically, if you measured a scoop of coffee, you wouldn't actually know how much mass of coffee was in there. But the thing that really matters actually is the mass of coffee to the mass of water ratio. We call that the brew ratio. And so you need to know how much coffee you have in terms of mass. So for an Aeropress, the next thing you have to consider is the grind size. Now, one of the advantages of an Aeropress is actually that you have the ability to press the water through the coffee with a bit of force exerted by your own hand. You can actually grind like kind of fine. And you don't even need to use a fancy grinder. You don't need to use one of these ones in the shop. You can use a home grinder like this guy, or even one of those whirly blade grinders that are really cheap and bad. You can actually use that with an Aeropress because they make a lot of dust, but dust is okay in an Aeropress because you're going to be able to control the brew time by pressing it when you want it to be when the extraction's done. So I'm going to grind it like a whole lot finer than I would grind for the V60, okay? You usually wash the piece of paper with a little bit of water before you brew the coffee because if you you taste it, it tastes like paper. And you don't want that in your coffee. So now we're going to grind the coffee relatively fine. Okay, so what we're going to now do is we're going to add water to this. This actually can be done volumetrically because all of the Aeropresses are the same size. So I've used 15 grams of coffee. I pushed the plunger in a little bit. I'm just going to fill it up until the water reaches the top, and then we're going to start timing, and it's going to brew for about 1 minute and 15 seconds. We're on a timer here. Now there's sometimes you get a little coffee ground stuck to it, so I like to give it one stir. So technically this is actually the upside down way of brewing an Aeropress, and it's not recommended because, as has happened to me multiple times, as I'm about to flip it, sometimes the plunger comes out the bottom and then hot coffee goes everywhere, but it always hits you in a really inconvenient place because the table height is always at the, belt height, and so it hurts. Now we're just gonna go for it. It'd be nice if it was sitting in there, but here we are. So remember, it's 15 grams of coffee. Yeah, this is gonna be dodgy. Oh yeah, we got a bit of movement. It's fine. Usually it takes me about 30 seconds to push this through. I think you can push hard. I have no idea what happens if you push harder. I just start shaking, so I'm not gonna do it. Again, I like this because it's portable, but also cleaning up from it's really nice because you just take the top off, and then, if you just push this through, you can see there's your coffee puck with the piece of paper on it. Just tap that into the trash and away we go. Hey, it smells good. Do you want some of this? Here. You gotta get a cup though. I can't. Oh yeah, super sweet. What we're doing with a spoon here is the appropriate way to taste coffee with coffee professionals. It's called cupping or slurping or whatever you want to think of. It's the same method you'd use if you're cupping coffee, which is how you gauge the quality of a coffee. What is bad form when you're tasting coffee with a spoon? I'm just going to show you. You'll see. You don't want to be this guy. Don't do that. With a sample size of 1, I can tell you that was successful. That tasted good. Flavor notes. I don't remember what the bag said, so we're just gonna assign it right now. Let's see. It's got this frangipani type sweetness, kind of maybe like an almond tart. There may be a little bit of fruit at the end there, I think. What fruit? Red. Is there a red stone fruit? Like a nectarine? Is it red? I guess if it's ripe.
Pastry.
Almond pastry. Frangipani is a banging flavor note for that. That is exactly what that is. They say strawberries. Honestly, I'm not getting strawberry, but I get it. If someone said that, then I would say that definitely is strawberry. Okay.
It's
Can you guys try this one? I've been drinking from it, but we're all friends here. There's zero bitterness, right?
No, it's like something I could drink black without any cream or shit.
That's the dream. That is the dream. This brew method is prevalent, probably the most prevalent actually, in the specialty coffee industry, because Well, probably because of romance, right? Because you're gonna like pour it over, so it looks like somebody's actually doing some work. But honestly, it's also one of the most simple. In fact, it hasn't been around that long, this current V60. It's only been around since 2005. So this time we're gonna use 20 grams of coffee, more than 15, and therefore, because I'm using a little more coffee, I'm gonna use a little more water. First thing again, just like in the Aeropress, is that I gotta wet the filter paper, just washing away any of the sort of paper related flavors that might be stuck on that paper. So that's it, very good. Going finer, let's grind that thing. So typically V60s give rise to a cleaner, sort of more well-structured flavor profile than the Aeropress. And so people tend to go towards this in specialty coffee because it in some sense can channel the terroir of the coffee, if you like. So if there was the strawberry flavor note that exists in this coffee, I'm hoping that we're gonna be able to access that using a pour over method like the V60. All right, so with 20 grams of coffee, you gotta first get it wet. I poured exactly 31.7 grams of water on it. This is called the bloom. The actual amount of water doesn't matter. It's just the idea that you're giving the coffee time to get warm and get wet, so then it's going to start to be able to impart the flavors as I start pouring the water over the coffee in the next stage. Sometimes it looks like a worm has dug through it. The carbon dioxide is leaving the roasted coffee, and so these bubbles form, and then they're going to find the easiest way out. So sometimes you get these little like holes forming as you bloom. Those are just CO2 exiting the puck. It's not a big deal. As I start to pour water on it, it's going to be all fine. It's going to go back to just sort of fully immersed coffee floating around in water. All right, so here we go. So we're shooting now for about, I don't know, 310 grams, I think, from our previous dial-in. So some people have sort of romanticized this idea of pouring clockwise versus counterclockwise. Obviously, all of that doesn't matter. Some people also think pour half the water on, then wait, then pour the next half the water. That also is a thing one could do. I'm usually lazy at home when I'm doing this, so I just stand there and just do this, and then just at the end of the, then coffee comes out. So that's what I'm going to continue to do here. And I told you I'd pour 310 grams, but I got a little carried away, so we're at 317. A brew ratio is a brew ratio for a reason. You start adding more water, you start extracting flavors you didn't mean to. You start also diluting the cup of coffee. So, I mean, 7 grams is not that big a deal if you think about it. That's only 2% over pour. If it tastes bad, I blame it because I was talking to the camera and not thinking about what I was. This is why I'm a professor and I'm not working in the shop, all right? Maybe I'm a little cynical about specialty coffee, but actually whenever I smell a V60, pretty much independent of where it's from, if it's just a washed coffee, they all kind of smell the same on that first smell. It's like a big bouquet of flowers. Maybe that's a spicy hot take, I don't know. Obviously, we've been talking about the coffee we're using. Today is Jovenez washed Guatemalan coffee. But the other component in brewing coffee besides grinding it up is, of course, the water. This is sort of the stuff that we teach in first year general chemistry of aqueous buffers or water buffers. But sort of the real world outcome of this is that if you use hard water that contains high levels of bicarbonate, you're gonna first of all put lime scale in your kettle, and second of all, you're gonna make your coffee taste kind of chalky and heavy and sometimes like fish. It's not necessary to use soft water. What you just need to use is water that doesn't have bicarbonate in it. And so you can use things like water filtration jugs like this thing right here. So this one, I pour water in, it filters the water. I now have no bicarbonate or very low bicarbonate, and then I can use this water in the kettle to brew coffee that has those sweet and acidic flavors. Obviously, the home user may not want to invest in a jug, and so one of the things you could do is just figure out what the water is that's coming out of your tap. Essentially every city in the United States has done the water report, so you can go online and just look that up. Alternatively, if you want to ensure that you're going to have soft water that you will be able to taste those acids through, then you can buy something like Dasani or one of these soft waters. The worst one to use is Evian. That is super, super hard. So while you might like the flavor and the mouthfeel, it will completely destroy all of the acids in coffee. You won't be able to taste a thing. What is the timing on this? So what I'm going to show you is the fruits of our labor, the hard work that went into that paper that we recently published in Matter, which is simply trying to brew espresso very quickly in under 20 seconds, using a little bit less coffee than normal. So today we're going to use about 17.2 grams, and the shot is probably going to be brewed in 14 seconds rather than the conventional 35 or thereabout seconds. One of the key things with espresso is you have to grind much finer than you would for the pour over or the cupping protocol. So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to adjust the grind setting on these grinders so that the water can pass evenly through that coffee when it's packed into the portafilter. It turns out that actually most cafes are grinding really fine, and so the water unevenly contacts all of the coffee, giving rise to variation in flavor. What we've implemented here is using a little less coffee, grinding a little coarser, and by doing so that allows the water to pass through the coffee very evenly, giving rise to extremely high extractions in a really reproducible way, and also not extracting any of the negative flavors that we typically think of when we think of bad tasting or burnt espresso. We're going to grind some coffee into the portafilter. Now again, we're shooting for 17.2. We only have 15 in there, so we need a little more. We're going to flatten it out, and now we're going to tamp that thing. Get a nice flat coffee bed. Now I'm expecting something like 45 grams of coffee to come out at the end, so 13 seconds up here, and 45.04 grams out. That's pretty much perfect for what we were aiming for. That right there is the sort of what I think of as a really fast shot of espresso, but actually has all of the positive flavor notes in the coffee that we're looking for, and essentially none of the negative ones. Smells awesome. It's a lighter body, so by using a little less coffee, you end up with a lower concentrated beverage. So it's not exactly the same sticky viscosity that you typically think of as an espresso. But actually, what I think is more important than the body of espresso is the flavor. And really, this really does taste good. In fact, I would say that bad espresso with good body is a terrible thing to drink because it sticks to your mouth and it really is not that enjoyable. But having a good flavor espresso independent of body is what the purpose of this really is. But what's really special about that particular beverage actually that we just brewed is that we use 17.2 grams instead of the conventional 20 grams. And so that, while it sounds like only a small amount, 3 grams of coffee, a coffee shop like this one saves 3 grams of coffee per shot of espresso. And so in a day, that turns out to be a lot of coffee. And over a year, that saved these guys about $4,000. In the United States, that saves the US, if every cafe did that here for all of their espresso beverages, that would be about $3 million per day, and which shakes out, I guess, to be something like $1 billion a year. Now that we've pulled some fast espresso shots and we've explored all of the conventional brew methods, we're now going to try something a little bit different. There's a hole in the heel. I've never done this before, but I guarantee it's going to work. It is paramount to make sure you wash your filter paper and also your socks, just in general, even if you're not brewing coffee with it. No, it's clean, but the thing is you've used a scented detergent, which is imparting a flavor note. I mean, you wouldn't be doing this if you were in optimal situation. So, hey, smell this thing? Okay. My expert tip for the home sock brewer is that if you are going to attempt, your rinse cycle on your washing machine has, what is this? What is this little puck of? Oh, it's fine. Yeah, we're good. We're gonna go 35 grams of coffee. I'm gonna grind this pretty coarse, actually. We're gonna go for a concentrate. So we're gonna pour a very little amount of water because I don't want much sock water contact in this brew. It's starting to smell a little less intense though, which is good. It's
almost nice.
Yeah, I know. If that actually showed up in a coffee, you'd be like, wow, that is really a curious smell.
What a clean cup.
Yeah, what a clean cup. In this case, and in general, if you're making a brew with equipment that you're not 100% sure about, for example, this sock, then you very well may want to make a concentrate and then dilute it. Usually use something like 20 grams or 15 grams in the Aeropress, 20 grams for a pour over with the V60, and 35 grams for the sock. In principle, one could just put the sock straight back in the washing machine. That is, oh my God. It's so gnarly. No, it's so, all right, we're gonna try it. Oh, it smells bad. It smells like real bad.
It smells really bad.
It's got that smell like it actually almost made me vomit smelling it actually just then.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I got my mouth washed out with soap.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I think I might. Yeah.
It's bad, but actually it smells worse than it tastes.
Yeah, but it doesn't taste good.
No, it doesn't taste good. Like, but it would do like, I mean, if you were gonna die and you needed coffee for some reason, it wouldn't be the worst thing that's ever happened.
I don't know. It's.
Give it to Ryan.
Ryan, try this.
Oh, I taste the detergent at the end, but it's not nearly as like.
Smell
icky as I
this.
thought it was
Smell
gonna be.
this. Like,
Yeah, like I smell the detergent, but it's not bad.
you're all right with it.
Yeah. I mean, like I can tell it's there, but it's still like a decent. If I didn't know that was like brewed in a sock, I think that detergent flavor was just like a really interesting floral flavor, like maybe a little over extracted.
I love coffee professionals. This is an interesting floral flavor note. What's more important then is that we could not predict the detergent that the cameraman had used with his socks previously. But if you did use an unscented detergent, honestly, I think you'd actually have trouble saying that that was a terrible brew method in the sense that it separated the coffee from the water. And the only flavor that was negative that it imparted was actually just a little bit of detergent flavor that came from the detergent. The important point of all the work we're doing here is not to tell you that the flavors of almond, sweet cream, and strawberry are the best possible flavors for this coffee. Indeed, this coffee has other flavors that you can access with the brew method. And we're not trying to tell you that those are the flavors that you enjoy, right? The important point here is to give you a sort of a broad canvas of ways that you can access flavors in coffee, but then it is up to you to find the one that suits your palate the best, and the brew ratios and the grind settings and all the variables of water chemistry that enable you to enjoy that cup of coffee in the morning. We talked a little about the water. I'd done some work on the water chemistry in 2014, and the papers are freely available online. In 2016, we did research related to grinding, and those are also freely available online. And then very recently, here in 2020, my most sort of high impact paper, if you like, was related to espresso, which as well is freely available online. I also curate a coffee literature library that you can find on my website. It's full of articles ranging from the smell and tastes of paper all the way to the differences in coffee varieties and everything in between. So hopefully there's something in there that you enjoy.